Hello, everyone. Dr. Eames here. This time I'd like to talk to you about the different types of planning that we do, as well as the time frames involved and also the levels of management. So as you can see here, we've got three different, to begin with, levels of planning: strategic planning, tactical planning, and operational planning. Strategic planning is at the top, and we do set the most general of broad, long-range goals, and this involves top managers. If you remember our definition of top managers, that's CEO or presidents and the VPs. And then we have tactical planning, which is the level just below. We're trying to find ways to enact the broad ideas that come to us from the top at strategic planning. These are middle level managers, not lower level as this says here. It has to be middle level managers, and they come up with the first ideas on how we're going to do these things. Of course, over here with strategic planning, we're talking about in broad strokes of the what we want to do. So we begin to get the how we're going to do it here at the tactical planning level from the middle managers. Below that, we have operational planning. This is first line management. Operational means where the work is being done. So these are the first line managers who are getting the work of the company done, and the plans are at that level. They set the most basic things that have to be done to proceed with the mission of the company: the work schedule, how to handle the workers, the maintenance on the machines. All of that stuff is part of operational planning. And of course, it is our first line managers. You can see the reporting relationships are operational managers report to middle managers, and middle managers, as we talked about before, report to the top managers, usually the VPs. And then over here, we've got something that's not part of these three levels of planning, but it's contingency planning. And these are simply backup plans that we use in case we have some unexpected disaster happen. And so these are standing plans that we put together in case the worst thing happens, and they sit there until they are needed. So we should have a contingency plan, for example, here on campus, that what if a tornado was to strike us and do a lot of physical damage to the campus? The contingency plan would be pulled out. It would say who contacts who, where do we assemble, where do we get together to begin the process, and we've laid out some steps that we're going to take right away, how we're going to assess damage, what are our priorities, and all of that sort of thing. That is planning for some future contingency we won't happen. We hope won't happen. So our types of planning here, with adding a little bit more detail to those topics: strategic planning, tactical and operational, and the contingency. Well, first up here at the top, strategic planning. This really is the what we want to do. So let's concentrate here. What we're adding is the level of detail. The level of detail in our strategic plans is very minimal. We just don't put details in there. We're really talking again in those broad strokes of what we want to accomplish. And so the time frame for this is 5 years or more. This is really the time period for a strategic plan. They're 5 years. At the tactical planning level, we look and see, this is the first time that we start to talk about how we're going to do it versus what. And so all of a sudden we have a medium level of detail, and our time frame has changed. Now we're working in that intermediate time frame of 1 to 5 years. And we are going to develop the first action plans or battle plans, depending on how you want to phrase it, that are going to move that idea of what we want to do and how we're actually going to accomplish it. This has to be done in coordination with the operational planning. So as you can see, planning is done at different levels. It's all integrated at some point, it's refined, and it coalesces into, finally, the 5-year plan that we have up here. But with the operational plan, our detail has changed again. It's the highest level of detail. And that makes sense, right? We're at the operations level where the work is getting done. So we have to know the most. We have to have certain types of skills and certain types of details that we know in order to proceed with the work. Our time frame has also changed. It's the short time frame. So we're always dealing with things up to a year. But in actuality, we're really dealing most of the time with weekly and monthly and quarterly sorts of goals and plans to get things done. The level of detail is high, so is the urgency and the number of smaller goals that we're dealing with. Now, when we look at contingency planning, having those stand-up plans, ready and available with all the different things that we can do when we have to respond, we're going to have a very high level of detail in those plans. So that takes a little brainstorming and so forth, but the time frame is really wide open. These are for unexpected events, natural disasters and so forth, and you can't predict how long the event will last necessarily, or once the event has happened, how long it takes you to recover. That's really an unknown until something does happen. So here's our time frames once again. Strategic time frame. Let's make the association again that it's top managers, which is CEOs and presidents and their VPs. It's the long time frame, 5 or more years. It is the what we want to do. Level of detail is none to very minimal. Tactical planning and time frame. It's intermediate, 1 to 5 years. We should associate middle managers with this. This is where we first begin to do the how we're going to do something. So we have a medium level of detail. Here, operational time planning. Short time frame, less than a year, up to a year sometimes. Generally, this is the highest level of detail and the most urgency. And we're talking about first line managers. Here are our levels of management that we've been using and referencing in this entire discussion. Top managers are talking about the what we're going to do. They're setting those objectives in a broad stroke. They're looking out the environment all the time. This is their job, to see how the market's doing, to see the competitive position, to look at the stakeholders and all the various different types of them and determine, are we satisfying them and what do we need to do? And what is coming our way that we need to be careful about? And so they're constantly planning and making decisions. But again, this is on a broader level, a minimal detail level, more in a conceptual level with general ideas rather than details. It's the what we are and what we want to accomplish. Here at the middle level, we have the middle managers. They are reporting upwards to the top managers, which means generally the middle manager of whoever it is or whatever position is going to report to some VP. They oversee these managers down here, the operational or first line managers. They begin to deal with medium levels of detail and they develop the action plans to take these ideas and give a firm approach of how we're going to accomplish it. And so they're constantly allocating resources, saying this is how much it'll take human labor-wise, this is the type of machinery we might need, this is the type of skill level that's required. That's a medium level of detail. And then we look down here at this level of management on the bottom. These are first line managers. They supervise the working employees, the operational employees. These are the most important managers by far. They are getting the work of the company done. They have to have a high level of detail. They have to know the details of how things are being done. They have to know the details of how the machinery works, how the process works. They need to know a little bit about human behavior so they can be good managers. And of course, they report upwards to middle management. So they supervise employees, they are coordinating day-to-day activities, and they are actually accomplishing the work of the company. Okay, folks, that's all I want to talk about this time. I'll talk to you again soon.